Oh, hi, everybody. Hello, hello, and welcome back. Sorry I'm late. Food was unexpectedly late and prioritize gut health over being on time tonight, which is better than Monday. Sorry about Monday, too. Sometimes you just, for reasons unbeknownst, are not able to make it. So we're back. 48 Laws of Power discussion series. I'm doing very powerful things by doing things in my own damn time. How's everybody doing? Let's check out chat before we get started. Cat Ninja. Bijou the Queen. Hello, Suze. Yeah, we are back. Chilomania. Hi, everybody. Who we got over on Rumbo? We've got the Cat Ninja. Oh, Firsty's over on Rumbo. School Bobble. Uh, better, Swab. Better. I haven't done anything to actually like deal with the core problem, except kill the infection, but we're doing all right. So yeah, all this royalty talk in chat. For anybody who wasn't here on Friday, when I mentioned which law this was, which was supposed to be Monday, was Law 34. Act like a king to be treated like one. Be royal in your own fashion. Long. No, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. You know. And I thought that was fun. These titles just keep getting longer and longer. What does it mean? Initial assessments before we even get started? Hey, Texas Jen. I was just over on T3's channel and she made a comment of like, if you want someone's attention in a sea, you gotta stand out. And if I'm taking this at face value, I would say that like the image you present and the way you act is going to be people's interpretation of you, you know? And people who dress well, speak eloquently, they they are looked upon differently than somebody wearing the dirty jeans and the t-shirt, work boots, who might talk with a bit of an accent or use a bit of slang that isn't in the eloquent vernacular. And you might look a little bit more favorably on the one to the other, or people tend to anyway. In a lot of experience I have, people tend to respect those who exude an air of confident authority. I've even had people say that I have a tendency to exude an air of competent authority, confident authority. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes I can just be, you know, human. But I know when there is somebody who has that confidence and that authority, it's really easy to pick up on. I did not get Kate Middleton sick. I don't even know who that is. And I did not step on a bee either. I like Jujubee. I would not step on her. Who's Kate Middleton? Is that Princess Kate? I don't really know anything about the British royal family because we fought a war almost 250 years ago because fuck that whole nonsense. Sup, Maddie? I didn't even have my Rumble stream playing, but I'm guessing by everyone's interactions and comments over there that the stream is actually going, so I know StreamYard's last time it didn't go through, it actually told me. Alright. Y'all ready to get into this? Because if y'all want to do something different, like, we could do that too. I have no idea how long this is. So we will find out together. Okay, let me find the book real quick. Sorry, I lost my tab. I was like, I see it on the screen, but where did I put it? Judgment. The way you carry yourself will often determine how you are treated. In the long run, appearing vulgar or common will make people disrespect you. For a king respects himself and inspires the same sentiment in others. By acting regally and confident of your powers, you make yourself seem destined to wear a crown. I promise you, I didn't even read the judgment before I gave my initial assessment. However, it makes sense. Like, what is acting like a king? It's not like ordering people around, it's being confident. I mean, exuding authority because you are competent in what you're saying and not appearing vulgar and common. Yeah, like a guy in the $2,000 Armani suit is going to get a lot of different looks than the guy in the work boots and dirty jeans. Does that mean what he does is any more respectable or meritorious of authority than the other guy? Probably not. Not necessarily, anyway. But perception is everything. And people will look at you differently. And people will treat you differently as well. Click it button. Sorry, y'all. No, that's not the one we want. Where's the standard damn layout? There it is. Walk like you have 3 men behind you. Judge Maddie, Darth, And space reserved for a real one. I know who that real one is. It's this guy right here. Matty Darf and First Shot? I wouldn't fuck with it. Speaking of which, welcome to the YouTube side, Firsty. One of my Rumble gangsters. And if you're not my Rumble gangster, allow me to take this pause and intermission here to tell y'all that Rumble's been giving me problems for like 3 days, but I haven't had any real problems with it since this morning. Like I was on watching T3 stream for like 2 or 3 hours and not having an issue with it. But this morning I was trying to watch TFM show and it just kept fucking off on me. Transgression of the law. In July of 1830, oh boy, a revolution broke out in Paris that forced the king, Charles X, to abdicate. A commission of the highest authorities in the land gathered to choose a successor, and the man they picked was Louis Philippe, the Duke of Orleans. From the beginning, it was clear that Louis Philippe would be a different kind of king. And not just because he came from a different branch of the royal family, or because he had not inherited the crown, but had been given it by a commission putting his legitimacy in question. Rather, it was that he disliked ceremony and the trappings of royalty. Now, see, this is why I would be a different kind of president, because I dislike politics and bullshit. And a lot of I think is pageantry and tapestry. He had more friends among the bankers than among the nobility. I'm not going to say it. Everybody's thinking it. I'm not going to say it. The banking class, though. And his style was not to create a new kind of royal rule, as Napoleon had done, but to downplay his status, the better to mix with the businessmen and middle class folk who had called him to lead, like that president that we had before 2020 happened. You know that guy? He downplays it. He downplays it to interact with the common man. It's his whole shtick. He just appeals to regular people who are sick and tired of all this political bullshit. I know you all know who I'm talking about. Thus, the symbols that came to be associated with Louis Philippe were neither the scepter nor the crown, but the gray hat and umbrella with which he would proudly walk the streets of Paris, as if he were a bourgeois out for a stroll. When Louis Philippe invited James Rothschild, I'm not gonna say it. Mm, the most important banker in France, to his palace, he treated him as an equal. Oh no. I swear to God. Yeah. I swear to God, Robert Greene's trying to get me to say it, isn't he? When the king invited the Jew banker to his palace, he treated him as an equal. And unlike any king before him, not only did he talk business with Monsieur Rothschild, but that he was literally all he talked, for he loved money and had amassed a huge fortune. Thus it begins, long before anybody, like everybody was pointing at the decline of the the United States. Uh, this was way before all the fuckery started over here, but this is where it began. Oh, are you guys gonna do? Are you guys gonna do it? Oh, Mousy fucked it up. Damn it. Sorry, guys. Hi, Mousy. They were building me an N-word tower. I was actually pointing my finger at the dirty Jew banker from France, corrupt piece of shit that he was, and this is how government and the banking industry really was born. It was before 1913 when they did the shit here in the U.S. In the 18 fucking 30s when the shit started in France, and it spread from there. Yeah, y'all burned down my N-word tower, y'all. Terrible. As the reign of the bourgeois king plodded on, people came to despise him. Hey, anybody who lives in any current Western country, how do you feel about your corrupt, self enriching at the people's expense politicians? Oh man, did I mention that I'm shilling YouTube because after the 48 Laws of Power is done, I'm probably done creating content over here on YouTube because it's election year and I don't want to go the way of the cool frog. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna fucking move. I like Rumble anyway, it's more fun. Shout out to the Rumble Ghetto. All 13 of you over there. My peeps. No, it's not. YouTube is. I mean, the aristocracy could not endure the sight of an unkingly king, and within a few years they turned on him. Meanwhile, the growing class of poor, including the radicals who had chased out Charles X, found no satisfaction in a ruler who neither acted as king nor governed as a man of the people. Hmm. The bankers to whom Louis Philippe was the most beholden soon realized that it was they who controlled the country, not he. And they treated him with growing contempt. One day, at the start of a train trip organized for the royal family, James Rothschild actually berated him and in public for being late. A king, mind you. A king in the times when, like, that actually still meant something. 14. Shout out to fucking Paul. Haven't seen you around in a minute. Like, how's work been going and all that shit? Like, I know, I mean, I've seen you when I show up at your show and shit with Doug, but like, don't you normally be working right about now? Or do you just be getting out of work right about now? But shout outs to Paul on both sides, Sibrev. If y'all ain't checked out Sibling Revelry, him, Paul and his brother grow on you. I thought they were just retarded at first, but they're actually kind of funny once you get past the initial retardation. So, if you don't know about Sibling Revelry on Rumble, if I could get one of my fine mods to post the link in the YouTube side, anybody on Rumble that can see the chat can just click on Paul's name and it'll take you directly to his channel because Rumble's cooler than YouTube like that. You can only do that on YouTube if you have a moderator wrench, which I think is terrible. No problem, Paul. Just keeping it real. Like, I do be watching because you and Doug, mostly Doug, is hilarious, but it's the dynamic between the two of you that really makes it work. I don't think he'd be as funny without you. Two kings in their own right. Kings of fucking comedy. Once the king had made news by treating the banker as an equal, now the banker treated the king as an inferior. Ding ding. Eventually, the workers' insurrections that had brought down Louis Philippe's predecessor began to reemerge, and the king put them down with force. But what was he defending so brutally? Not the institution of the monarchy, which he disdained, nor a democratic republic, which his rule prevented. What he was really defending, it seemed, was his own fortune and the fortunes of the bankers, not a way to inspire loyalty among the citizenry. I mean, I'm making the meme face right now. I'm sorry I don't do the webcam thing so y'all can't see it. But I'm literally doing the the little white monkey, the fuck, like it's not like we don't have historical reference for this shit. Yeah, thank you, Cat Ninja. I'll just pop that up on the screen so everyone can see it. Sub to Sib. Subling Revelry. This was their last show they did. Careful with that one. It'll get you right out of the gate. Never lose your self respect, nor be too familiar with yourself when you are alone. Let your integrity itself be your own standard of rectitude, and be more indebted to the severity of your own judgment of yourself than to all external precepts. Desist from unseemly conduct, rather out of respect for your own virtue than for the structures of external authority. Come to hold yourself in awe, and you will have no need of Seneca's imaginary tutor. Nah, that's my rumble. If y'all aren't on my rumble, like I said, the day will come when either I will abandon the YouTube verse or they will purge me. I will be going to rumble at least until they go the way of YouTube at that point, but I've seen too much shit and I'm saying too much shit right now. Always pretend you got a Fed watching you. I think it's more than that. I think what that statement there is trying to get at in you, which welcome and good to see you. I think what that statement is getting at is that it's easy to slip into unseemly behaviors when nobody's watching, when you're not in the public eye. So yeah, like I'd say rather than always pretend you got a Fed watching you, it would be more like always pretend that like your mom is watching you or that you're watching yourself in judgment and to hold yourself to the high standards that you would hold anyone else even when there's nobody else there. Like you're responsible to you, not external authority, for your own decency and your own self-respect. At least that's my 100% interpretation. Because if you do respect for your own virtue, that's what the exact quote is. Baltasar Gracian, imagine that would be his quote from my guy. He has the best quotes in this whole damn book. Shout out to Robert Greene for choosing them. In early 1848, okay, so we're like 18 years later now, I think. Yeah, 18 years later, Frenchmen of all classes began to protest for electoral reforms that would make the country truly democratic. By February, the demonstrations had turned violent. Have you guys ever heard of the French Revolution? To assuage the populace, Louis Philippe fired his prime minister and appointed a liberal as a replacement. Oh, yeah, this is going to go well. But this created the opposite of the desired effect. People sensed they could push the king around, which the demonstrations turned into a full-fledged revolution with gunfire and barricades in the street. Yeah, the French Revolution. 18 years, she got one of your kids. I think the laws of power went to your head. Why did the laws of power go to your head? What have you done? Oh, yeah. I mean, Katten is starting to put content on her YouTube channel. I have no idea what she will upload next. She started to put out content on her YouTube channel. First one shot, as I just said. I don't know what she will be putting out next. But so far, I give it a high rating. The top marks, if you will, for content quality. So yeah, if y'all don't know about the French Revolution, you should check into that. Oh, what's up, Inya on the Rumble side? I didn't know you were part of the Rumble gang, but yes, Jesus is also watching. Jesus is always watching. And I mean, if you happen to be a follower of the one true king, that would be the best advice would be to always pretend that Jesus is watching because guess what? You don't have to pretend. Jesus is literally always watching. That's that's how it go. But if you really have Jesus, it's really easy to already know that. On the night of February 23rd, a crowd of Parisians surrounded the palace with a suddenness that caught everyone by surprise. Uh, Louis Philippe abdicated that very evening and fled to England. He left no successor, nor even the suggestion of one. His whole government folded up and dissolved like a traveling circus leaving town. Your fish do put out a lot of content. Did you post Mousy's link, Mousy? Did you post Juju's link, Mousy? I will promote everybody whose link comes up. Yeah, go to change your channel name and someone else has it. Uh oh, well, shit. I don't know what to tell you. That's why I reserved my channel name. Although, if you look, and Jesus pressed the like button. Yeah, Jesus pressed the like button for all of us because he loves us all. And yeah, you should too. To Paul, you listen because Paul has the sage wisdom of the Lord on his side. He speaks the truth. Press the like button. But yeah, I mean, even though King uh, Louis Philippe's entire government folded up, an important lesson was learned by the powerful banking clans that day that they have the power of wealth to corrupt governments. And Rothschild's good friends, Morgan and the railway oil tycoon Rockefeller, found this quickly. You can't actually like on Rumble multiple times, Bijou. It'll let you click the button a lot, but it'll actually, even though it stays lit, it'll unlike your stream. It just won't change. It kept counting them. Huh, that's weird. It doesn't count them on my side. I just want you to know that. All my Rumble streams get like exactly 7 likes. It's weird. Very rarely do they get more. One of them got 6, but it's like always 7. Oh yeah, it doesn't automatically update like YouTube does. So if you unlike it and relike it, it will update the number then. That happens. They'll probably get that fixed too. Oh my god, I've been at war with my Roku, who's hell bent on getting both my Gmail and email password to get back here. I finally typed in Darth Hideous and found you. I've missed you, and it's good to be back. It is good to have you back, Heidi, my dear. I am so glad you could make it. And I think I properly thanked you for inspiring me to keep going with the laws of power when I had decided to do a powerless thing and just give up. I am hardcore shadow banned on YouTube. I say a lot of really, right, really uh, unpopular with the authority type shit. So I need all the help I can get. If y'all want to like tell your friends about the 48 laws, tell your friends that we're doing Rumble and everything, like Darth Hideous appreciates all the support and promotion he can get. I'm not doing this to grow a, a big community. I'm doing this to strengthen the community that I have. Like I like these discussions because I think they're worth something. And you should always do what you feel is important to do. But Heidi helped to inspire me to come back and finish doing this book when I had basically thrown it in the trash after like 5 laws because it is important and I thought it was important in the first place. So shout out to you, my dear. A Darth Hideous inspired fish tank. Yeah, but how are you going to set everything in the fish tank on fire? It's a fish tank. You got to put water in it, and you can't keep a fire lit in the water. Anyway, let's get to the interpretation. Louis Philippe consciously dissolved the aura that naturally pertains to kings and leaders. Scoffing at the symbolism of grandeur, he believed a new world was dawning where rulers should act and be like ordinary citizens. He was right. A new world without kings and queens was certainly on its way, and he was right. He was profoundly wrong, however, in predicting a change in the dynamics of power. The bourgeoisie king's hat and umbrella amused the French at first, but soon grew irritating. People knew that Louis Philippe was not really like them at all, that the hat and umbrella were essentially a kind of trick to encourage them in the fantasy that the country had suddenly grown more equal. Actually, though, the divisions of wealth had never been greater. The French expected their ruler to be a bit of a showman, to have some presence. Even a radical like Robespierre, who had briefly come to power during the French Revolution 50 years earlier, oh, this is the actual French Revolution, that one, had certainly understood this. And certainly Napoleon, who had turned the Revolutionary Republic into an imperial regime, had known it in his bones. Indeed, as soon as Louis Philippe fled the stage, the French revealed their true desire. They elected Napoleon's grandnephew president. He was a virtual unknown, but they hoped he would recreate the great general's powerful aura, erasing the awkward memory of the bourgeois king. And that didn't happen. That did not happen. Because turns out the great grandnephew of Napoleon was an oaf. We heard about him a few laws back. I can't remember exactly which one now, but we know his story. And kind of a vicious fella as well. Power or ambitious fella at least. Powerful people may be tempted to affect a common man aura. Donald Trump. Trying to create the illusions that they and their subjects or underlings are basically the same. But the people whom this false gesture is intended to impress will quickly see through it. They understand that they are not being given more power, that it only appears as if they shared in the powerful person's fate. The only kind of common touch that works is the kind affected by Franklin Roosevelt, a style that said the president shared values and goals with the common people even while he remained a patrician at heart. He never pretended to erase his distance from the crowd. Also, Donald Trump. Funny enough, how that works out. This is actually facts. Thank you for asserting the laws of power at Darth's channel. It's not actually a fish channel at all. Leaders who try to dissolve the distance through a false chumminess gradually lose their ability to inspire loyalty, fear, or love. Instead, they elicit contempt. Like Louis Philippe, they are too uninspiring even to be worth the guillotine. The best they can do is simply vanish in the night as if they never were there. So he took all the power of a royal position as high as the highest position can go, king of the country, and through trying to seem like everybody else, lost all that fucking power. All that fucking authority, had everything taken from him, was driven out. I mean, the all the corruption and self enrichment aside, having a shitty image and not giving a fuck about like the power and authority you're supposed to have is a good way to lose it. I mean, ask the current administration. It seems like a good fucking way to lose it. Observance of the law. When Christopher Columbus was trying to find funding for his legendary voyages, many around him believed he came from the Italian aristocracy. This view was passed into history through a biography written after the explorer's death by his son, which describes him as a descendant of a Count Colombo of the castle Cucciaro in Montferrat. Colombo, in turn, was said to be descended from the legendary Roman general Colonius, and two of his first cousins were supposedly direct descendants of an emperor of Constantinople. An illustrious background indeed, but it was nothing more than illustrious fantasy for Columbus was actually the son of Domenico Colombo, a humble weaver who had opened a wine shop when Christopher was a young man, and who then made his living by selling cheese. He was but a humble cheese merchant, not aristocracy, but a humble cheese merchant. Columbus himself had created the myth of his noble background because from early on he felt that destiny had singled him out for great things and that he had a kind of royalty in his blood. So he was not noble, he was noble-ish, like those people who were like acting and presenting the Jew-ish persona. Jew-ish. Yeah, this guy felt like he had royalty in his blood. I mean, Charlie Sheen, he's got tiger blood. His father is but a humble cheese merchant. But behold the power of cheese. Thank you, Squawbot. That was perfect. Accordingly, he acted as if he were indeed descended from noble stock. So this lie is on fake it till you make it. After an uneventful career as a merchant on a commercial vessel, Columbus, originally from Genoa, settled in Lisbon. Using the fabricated story of his noble background, he married into an established Lisbon family that had excellent connections with Portuguese royalty. Through his in laws, Columbus finagled a meeting with the King of Portugal, João II, whom he petitioned to finance a westward voyage aimed at discovering a shorter route to Asia. He was looking for India. I think we all knew that. Like the non land route to India. That's what he set off for in the first place. But you see what he's doing here? Like, he started off telling himself this lie, and then he believed it, and he started telling other people this lie, and he could sell it because he believed it and he acted the part. It wasn't because he was actually royalty, but because he was a great salesman who could sell that bullshit. In return for announcing that any discoveries he achieved would be made in the king's name, Columbus wanted a series of rights. The title Grand Admiral of the Oceanic Sea, the office of Viceroy over any lands he found, and 10% of the future commerce with such lands. That's a bold list of demands, my not so noble friend. That is a bold list of demands. All of these rights were to be hereditary and for all time. So, he doesn't just want all of this for himself, he wants it in perpetuity for all his descendants. Huh, go figure. Uh, we did act the act boldly. It's very bold. It's very bold indeed. Columbus made these demands even though he had previously been a mere merchant. He knew almost nothing about navigation. He could not work a quadrant, and he had never led a group of men. In short, he had absolutely no qualifications for the journey he proposed. Furthermore, his petition included no details as to how he would accomplish his plans, just vague promises. Now, if I'm your kingship, the king of Portugal here, I'm looking right at this jumped nobody, and I'm going to tell him right straight to his face, go fuck yourself. Like, literally. And I'm probably going to be laughing while I do it. Because are you out of your fucking mind, little man? When Columbus finished his pitch, Joao II smiled. He politely declined the offer, but left the door open for the future. Here, Columbus must have noticed something he would never forget. Even as the king turned down the sailors' demands, he treated them as legitimate. He neither laughed at Columbus nor questioned his background and credentials. I just told you all, if I were king, I would have done both of those things. In fact, the king was impressed by the boldness of Columbus's requests and clearly felt comfortable in the company of a man who acted so confidently. Yeah, well, I mean, you're gonna have to bring me a hell of a sales pitch. A hell of a sales pitch. Like, the meeting must have convinced Columbus that his instincts were correct. By asking for the moon, he had instantly raised his own status. Aha. Yeah, that's in that was it Law 28 that was act boldly? 28 or 29. For the king assumed that unless a man who set such a high price on himself were mad, which Columbus did not appear to be, he must somehow be worth it. I mean, bullshit only goes so far, but if you're literally like not bullshitting, like there's I mean, you might be full of shit on paper, but in reality, you might have the whole fucking shit. All you need is like to open that door and go ahead and prove it. And if you can get yourself that foot in the door and you can prove your shit, yeah, you can get quite a ways. Oh god, that's a long ass insert. Good thing we're not reading it. I can't even pronounce half the fucking words in there, even if it didn't have a billion typos. A few years later, Columbus moved to Spain. Aha! Using his Portuguese connections, he moved in elevated circles at the Spanish court, receiving subsidies from illustrious financiers and sharing tables with dukes and princes. To all these men, he repeated his request for financing for a voyage to the West, and also for the rights he had demanded from Joe the Jr. Yeah, we're just going to call him Junior from now on. Joao Jr. Some, such as the powerful Duke of Medina, wanted to help, but could not, since they lacked the authority to grant him the titles and rights he wanted. But Columbus would not back down. He soon realized that only one person could meet his demands. The only person who has the authority over the country to grant you viceroyship in perpetuity. Like, yeah, only the 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 top, the king, in this case, queen, has that authority. You're gonna have to talk to them. Is it bullshit if you can prove it? No, exactly. Like it may appear bullshit because you've never proven it, but if you can prove it, it becomes a lot less like bullshit very immediately. Queen Isabella in 1487, he finally managed a meeting with the queen, and although he could not convince her to finance the voyage, he completely charmed her and became a frequent guest in the palace. In 1492, the Spanish finally expelled the Moorish invaders who centuries earlier had seized part of the country. With the wartime burden on her treasury lifted, Isabella felt she could finally respond to the demands of her explorer friend, and she decided to pay for 3 ships, equipment, the salaries of the crews, and a modest stipend for Columbus. We all heard this story in school. There's a rhyme about it and everything. I mean, people in the U.S. have heard it. I don't know if they ever did the Columbus rhyme in the UK because, well, why would they give a shit? More important, she had a contract drawn up that granted Columbus the titles and rights on which he had insisted. The only one she denied, and only in the contract's fine print, was the 10% of all revenues from any lands discovered. An absurd demand since he wanted no time limit on it. Had the clause been left in, it would have eventually made Columbus and his heirs the wealthiest family on the planet. Columbus never read the fine print. I mean, yeah, like 10% of all commerce between Spain and all the lands that make up the Americas that he actually touched on. I think he hit like Cuba first and then Florida and all of that. Like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you've never heard it. Well, I'm not going to repeat it because it's irrelevant to the story, but in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. For many weeks, he was at sea, sailing ships that numbered 3. Thank you, Heidi. You got it started. I wasn't gonna do it, but Heidi got me started, so you can thank her for that. That's the little nursery rhyme about it. We learned it in school. Good thing you never read the fine print. Yeah, yeah. The amount of money that absurdity would have satisfied that his demands had been met. Columbus set sail the same year in search of the passage to Asia. Before he left, he was careful to hire the best navigator he could find to help him get there because this fucking idiot was no sea captain. This uh up jump upstart was basically a nobody, and he was a really good smooth oil salesman, and one might even call him a con man. The mission failed to find such a passage, as we all know. Yet when Columbus petitioned the Queen to finance an even more ambitious voyage the following year, she agreed. By then, she had come to see Columbus as destined for great things. I mean, I could probably tell you the interpretation of this. Oh, Charlemagne, that makes me actually feel. That actually makes me feel very special that you would ignore Raging Golden Eagle's show for me. I never even get notifications for his shows anymore because, well, just like me, Raging Golden Eagle is really fucking shadow banned on YouTube. I don't know if he's even got a Rumble channel or not. He probably does, and I probably should look into it. But, oh man, yeah, Raging Golden Eagle super shadow banned on YouTube. Good show though, like fantastic guy. Makes a hell of a fucking comic. Blade Devil, Sick Fucks Entertainment. If you're into comic book nerd shit, like I might be a little bit, go check that out. Interpretation. As an explorer, Columbus was mediocre at best. He knew less about the sea than he did the average sailor on his ships. Could never determine the latitude and longitude of his discoveries, mistook islands for vast continents, and treated his crew poorly. But in one area, he was a genius. He knew how to sell himself. How else to explain how the son of a cheese merchant, a low-level sea vendor, managed to ingratiate himself with the highest royal and aristocratic families? But he is the son of but a humble merchant of cheese. Yeah, Raging Golden Eagle, Heidi. He's a funny dude. Nick brought him up on his show the other night because he was talking, or no, we brought him up because he was talking about like Ethan Van Sciver and Eric July. It might not have been Nick. It might have been the expert. Uh, wow, Cat Ninja. That's that's pretty. That's quick research to pull that one up. But yeah, the son of cheese has risen to the height of power in manipulating royal folks based on pure confidence alone. He he believed it. He believed the shit he was selling. And it's easy to believe in somebody if they believe in themselves. It's a much harder to believe in somebody who doesn't have that confidence. This was another thing actually that Ricado, I think it was Ricado, he was talking about like the type of confidence like Ron DeSantis has. Well, the lack of, like he doesn't appear to be a saleable product because he doesn't have that confidence. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have that it factor that Donald Trump has got. He's got the Riz. Vivek Ramaswamy has got the Riz. I might hate her and I might think she's a lying sack of shit, but even Nikki Haley has more like sounds like she's got more authority than Ron DeSantis does when he talks. Shouldn't there be a cheese named after Columbus then? Uh, I know there's a city in Ohio named after Columbus. I know he used to have a day, but they tried to take it away from him because it's racist. Fuck your Indigenous Peoples Day, by the way. That shit is Columbus Day. I'm an Indigenous people. I was fucking born here. Columbus had an amazing power to charm the nobility, and it all came from the way he carried himself. He projected a sense of confidence that was completely out of proportion to his means. Nor was his confidence the aggressive, ugly self promotion of an upstart. It was a quiet and calm self assurance. I mean, his patience proved that. In fact, it was the same confidence usually shown by the nobility themselves. The powerful in the old style aristocracies felt no need to prove or assert themselves. Being noble, they always deserved more and asked for it. With Columbus then, they felt an instant affinity, for he carried himself just the way they did, elevated above the crowd, destined for greatness. Understand, it is within your power to set your own price. How you carry yourself reflects what you think of yourself. If you ask for little, shuffle your feet, and lower your head, people will assume this reflects your character. But this behavior is not you. It is only how you have chosen to present yourself to other people. Basically, behaving meek. If you're meek and you're timid, people will prey upon that. But if you have confidence and authority, people will have to respect it. It's natural for them to do so. You can just as easily present the Columbus front, buoyancy. Now, this says you can just as easily present this front. That's not true. That is inherently one point where I will vehemently disagree with Columbus, because if it is not in your nature to present a confident personality, it fucking takes practice. You motherfuckers might not believe it, but when I was a boy, and I mean a young boy, I was I was one of those people that looked away, that was bullied, that lacked all the confidence. Like, I had all the tools, I just didn't have the self assurance. I had to grow into it, and I had to learn to stop giving a fuck. I had to stop being afraid of what might happen on if I stood up and asserted my authority, and some of it didn't go well. I had my tumultuous phase. had to get into a couple of fights at points in times when I'm not taking people's shit anymore. But eventually, I didn't care what people's perception of me was anymore. I just decided to be myself and to be openly myself, and all that shit, all those years I kept quiet, that turns out that made an exuberant son of a bitch down the road because now I am all personality and unable to be shut the fuck up. And that's how people know me. Like when people say, "Oh, that's Darth," he's got a fucking lot to say. No one ever accuses me of being the fucking quiet type anymore. But people recognize me. I make an impression on people. This is not me trying to be a braggart. You're all proof of that. And you've all been places where people notice me and they're like, hey, that's Darth Hideous. He's consummate chat troll, good friend. Like the people all over the circles have something to say about me. I am not just another faceless name in the crowd, even though I'm technically a faceless existence on my content creation and whatnot. I've made my impression with my personality. So when he says you can just as easily present the Columbus front, buoyancy, confidence, and the feeling that you were born to wear a crown, no, you can't just as easily. You can present it though. It takes practice. It's harder than fear. It is harder than fucking fear. Like it's easy to be afraid and to be unsure of yourself. It's I mean it's that's harder on you, but it is the route that'll bring you a lot less conflict if you do act. But it took several years to temper my behavior down to something that like I can be crass and funny and make jokes and troll people. I can be very serious and professional and like if I'm in that world, I can shut off the clowning and be somebody that people respect and like to do business with because they know I don't bullshit. Like if I'm gonna say I can do it, it'll be done. Like that's just all there is to it. If not, I will let you know that you need to find somebody else to do it. Like I cannot agree to this shit. But I'm pretty good on my word on that, so it's not easy. It's not as easy as being timid, but it can be done. You have to decide that's who you are though. And that's what Columbus did here. He decided that just because he came from this background, he wasn't going to be held to that future. And he stepped his game up, sold himself up the chain, and became a modern legend. Like, we still tell the story today, nursery rhyme and all. With all great deceivers, there is a noteworthy occurrence to which they owe their power. In the actual act of deception, they are overcome by belief in themselves. It is this which then speaks so miraculously and compellingly to those around them. Friedrich Nietzsche. And what Nietzsche is saying with this quote is like good liars may not believe their lie, but they believe in themselves. And they believe in themselves to a point where they can sell you the lie because their confidence and their ability to sell it makes the truth of what they're saying largely irrelevant. If they sound like you know what they're fucking talking about, then people believe them. People have been getting conned for basically all of human history by people who sounded like they know what they're talking about. I know a little troll from the NIH who ought to be drawn and quartered, who people believed him because the people with the authoritative voices said that he was the supreme authority on, yeah, that's how, but that's why lie detector tests aren't permissible in court, Squab, is they're completely unreliable because there are multiple ways in beating a lie detector test. And one of the things I heard that was a training for that was when you're being questioned, you basically largely ignore the nature of the question and you just think about something that is true yourself because it picks up on like patterns and shit in your speech. Like it doesn't actually detect whether something is true or false. That's impossible. It only can detect how you react to questions. So if you can go ahead and trick your mind into answering a different question or asking a different question rather, then you're not lying when you answer it. Or you just are so damn nervous with it that like there are people who've taken lie detector tests that have gotten their own fucking name wrong. And when you can't get your own name right, like what sort of consistent like everything they read is going to be a lie according to their stupid machine. Keys to power. This looks like it's going to be a short one, folks. As children, we start our lives with great exuberance, expecting and demanding everything from the world. This generally carries over into our first forays into society as we begin our careers. But as we grow older, the rebuffs and failures we experience set up boundaries that only get further with time. It's like the nihilism of actually coming to grips with reality. Life's not fair. All of that. Yeah. To quote Ron DeSantis, the one good quote I've ever fucking heard out of Ron DeSantis giving a speech, we need to chuck that little elf back across the Potomac. I think he said chuck, but boot is fine. Like, I don't think he said boot though, because I've seen his boots, and I wouldn't want to kick anybody in those high heels, baby. You know it's only a lie if you don't believe it to be true. That's fucking dead ass right there. Thank you, Go Hagen, and glad you could finally make one. You got a weird ass schedule, my guy, that you can be here. Oh yeah, because you're from California, so you can be here for the early ones, and then you're not here for the later ones. But I'm glad you're here for this one. Really am. Eh. But yeah, I mean, this is true. Like reality does tend to affirm itself as we experience more and more failures. We realize that, like, yeah, when they said you could be anything you want, you can't be a fucking attack helicopter. Regardless of what they want to try to sell you today, you can't. This is fascinating. I never would have thought he wasn't even a sailor. I like how Greene differentiates between the behavior of the person and who the person is. Well, a lot of who you are is your behavior, and that's the point he's trying to make is what people perceive of you and what you truly are two totally different things. I mean, we all see the current president for what he is, a bumbling senile old fool. But there are some people because not because of the perception he gives off, but the people who try to cover for him and maybe their own delusions believe that he's like actually the leader of the free world. Fuck out of here. No, you're not. Meanwhile, there's that other guy who tried to be the leader of the free world and they tried to give him the perception that he's literally the second coming of the tiny mustache man. And like it's all perception and what you perceive to be reality is a large part of what actually is reality. Coming to expect less from the world, we accept limitations that are really self imposed. Because people don't like to suffer failure. It's unpleasant. It really fucking is. Like, people don't like to fail. We don't like to be rebuked by life. We start to bow and scrape and apologize for even the simplest of requests because we're afraid of hearing no. The solution to such a shrinking of horizons is to deliberately force ourselves in the opposite direction, to downplay the failures and ignore the limitations, to make ourselves demand and expect as much as the child. To accomplish this, we must use a particular strategy upon ourselves. Call it the strategy of the crown. Now, I don't think he's citing anybody here, so did he just make this shit up? Let's find out. The strategy of the crown is based on a simple chain of cause and effect. If we believe we are destined for great things, our belief will radiate outward, just as a crown creates an aura around a king. This outward radiance will infect the people around us who will think we must have reasons to feel so confident. People who wear crowns seem to feel no inner sense of the limits to what they can ask for or what they can accomplish. This too radiates outward. Limits and boundaries disappear. Use the strategy of the crown, and you will be surprised how often it bears fruit. Like, just fuck it, because what's the worst that could happen? Take as an example those happy children who ask for whatever they want and get it. Their high expectations are their charm. Adults enjoy granting their wishes, just as Isabella enjoyed granting the wishes of Columbus. Throughout history, people of undistinguished birth, the Theodorus of Byzantium, the Columbuses, the Beethovens, the Disraelis, have managed to work the strategy of the crown, believing so firmly in their own greatness that it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. The trick is simple: be overcome by your self belief. Instead of telling yourself, well, I can't, change that to, well, I will, and then go do. And do until you fucking do. Don't ask, don't get. Shallowmania. Absolutely. You found happy cherries in January's? I'm confused. Biden action looks like the mustache man. I mean, he really does. That speech he did, God, what was it, like a couple days before the primary? He did a state. I think it was a State of the Union or something. And oh my God, it was literally like something right out of a Adolf speech. It was fucking terrifying. Like, same rhetoric and every shit. And I'm like, huh, I ain't never heard this before. Even while you know you are practicing a kind of deception on yourself, act like a king. You are likely to be treated as one. And the more you act like it, the more you're treated like it, the more this shit reinforces. Can't, never, could do nothing. Yeah, you're damn right. I like the strawberry ones with sugar on the outside. Those are bombs. Oh, not bombs, bomb. I thought we were about to start bombing something like a proper king in the modern year. Let's look for a small nation of brown people to bomb. That's what George Carlin would say. The big dick bomb theory. If you've never heard that skit, I think that was part of his offensive language bit. You should check out George Carlin's classic shit right there. Do they ever do the state of the president? Oh my goodness. Oh man, the union should give a state of the president address. Cat Ninja, that would be classic. I've had most of the gummy candies, love them candy in general. Uh Gohagen's got a sweet tooth. That's funny because like outside of like apple pie and ice cream, I don't really eat a lot of sweets. Never have. I'm a more salty snack kind of guy. Maybe it's because I'm just a salty person in general. State of the Union is upcoming. They have to gather more babies for the adrenochrome double dose. At this point, I think they're triple stacking it and bringing in a new cloned meat suit every month and a half, and it's still not working. The Biden is falling apart, yo. We need to do a State of the President address. The crown may separate you from other people, but it is up to you to make that separation real. You have to act differently, demonstrating your distance from those around you. One way to emphasize your difference is to always act with dignity, no matter the circumstance. Louis Philippe gave no sense of being different from other people. He was the banker's king. It says banker king. I changed it to banker's king because he was bought and paid for, controlled by the bankers. So I changed his name to banker's king. That's a little personal punch in edit. And the moment his subjects threatened him, he caved in. Everyone sensed this and pounced. Lacking regal dignity and firmness of purpose, Louis Philippe seemed an imposter. He was an imposter. He had no fucking authority whatsoever. And the crown was easily toppled from his head because people didn't respect the fucking crown on his head. They didn't respect him as the crown. How the fuck are you gonna believe or get people to believe your bullshit if you don't even believe your own hype? Regal bearing should not be confused with arrogance, and it shouldn't. Arrogance may seem the king's entitlement, but it in fact betrays insecurity. And I kind of noticed this the other night. The the kind of glaring difference. Uh, for those who don't know, after the Iowa caucus, candidate Obama Swami did the noble thing, stepped down, canceled his whole candidacy. So the special I wanted to do, deep diving into his, yeah, we canceled that with his canceling of uh, his run for president. Like, I don't really need to get into him anymore. It's largely irrelevant. We'll see what happens with him from here on out. But I noticed something because Trump did a town hall, like, I think the very night after, or the maybe 2 days later. Like, it was literally just like yesterday or the day before, not that long ago. But he had Vivek there, and Vivek talks like an upstart. He's exuberant. He's loud. It sounds like he's trying to sell you something. When Trump talks, he's got a much quieter confidence. He doesn't need to get people fired up. He just says things very matter of factly. He'll crack jokes, he'll make you laugh. Like, he's not selling you the urgency of the situation, but Vivek was 100%. He does sound like a used car salesman, And that's one of the first things I got about him. It's like, I love your message, especially that part about America first doesn't belong to Donald Trump or me. It belongs to all of us fucking Americans. And we really need to fucking start taking authority for our shit to take our fucking country back. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm with you on that bit. Like, nah, man, you sketched me out on a lot of other shit, though. He is the pick me girl. Yeah, definitely the pick me girl. But like, if you listen to Vivek versus like Ron DeSantis talking, like I'm actually inspired by Vivek, and he sounds like, even though he's way overselling it, that he really fucking believes in the shit he's saying. Like when I listen to Ron talk, like I'm like, man, did you forget your lines? Like, what are you even doing here, bro? You seemed to be a decent governor. I don't know about your Florida campaign for the governorship. I hear from all the people that do seem to know that it wasn't shit and you weren't going to win until you hitched your wagon to Big Daddy Trump and then tried to come out and basically insurrect on him like this year. Like you shouldn't have ran, but I don't know. Maybe he was a good governor, but like just listening to him talk and watching his speeches, I'm like, oh, dude, you don't inspire any kind of confidence. At least I know when Nikki Haley talks that she's gonna bomb the fuck out of the Middle East and try to take away all our rights. She's fucking proud of it, but she says it with the authority of someone who's going to do it. She is 100% committed to doing all the really fucked up shit she says she's gonna do. I prefer listening to sober drunk Keita than Ron. Yeah, exactly. Like he's so underwhelming. I just get nothing out of fucking Ron DeSantis. Like no confidence, no leadership, no nothing. Man, your political career is dead. Go home, buddy. And your campaign is trash. Like your whole team is trash. Ah. Anyway, political rant over. That's just like 100% where I wanted to go with that. Hold on. Hold on, I'm losing tabs again. God damn it. Uh, and my PC is lagging. Mm, okay. Oh, where were we? Uh, Regal bearing should not be confused with arrogance. Okay. Arrogance may seem the king's entitlement. It is the very opposite of a royal demeanor. Haile Selassie, ruler of Ethiopia for 40 years or so, beginning in 1930, was once a young man named Liege Tafari. He came from a noble family, but there was no real chance of him coming to power, for he was far down the line of succession from the king, then on the throne, Menelik Jr. Nevertheless, from an early age, he exhibited a self confidence and a royal bearing that surprised everyone around him. At the age of 14, Tafari went to live at the court where he immediately re- impressed Mel- Menelik. My bad, Menelik. I said Melanik. It's Menelik, and became his favorite. Tafari's grace under fire, his patience, and his calm self assurance fascinated the king. The other young nobles, arrogant, blustery, and envious, would push this slight, bookish teenager around, but he never got angry. That would have been a sign of insecurity, to which he would not stoop. Ooh wee. There were already people around him who felt he would someday rise to the top, for he acted as if he were already there. Oh yeah, I know she's the scariest of them all. That psychopath would lead us to war 100%. But if you like listen to her talk, she does exude an energy like uh, I mean, psychotic boss bitch is the actual energy I read off of that, but if you didn't know what that looked like if you'd never like listened to Hillary Clinton speak or been in a state governed by Gretchen Whitmer, you wouldn't know that psycho bitch fucking vibe as well as I do anyway. Hmm. But she does convey more authority than like Chris Christie did or Ron DeSantis does, in my opinion. Like some people can argue like what the like yeah, granted, she's a 100% a psychopath. Hashtag never Nikki. Like I fucked up my algorithm by telling her to go home on Twitter, and next thing I know, my fucking feed is inundated with Nikki Haley fucking ads and people supporting her bullshit. And I'm like, well, this went the opposite of the way I wanted it to go, but I guess I have to fucking embrace it now. Anyway, that's another time. Yes. Years later, in 1936, when the Italian fascists had taken over Ethiopia, this would be under Mussolini, I believe, and Tafari, now called Haile Selassie, was in exile, he addressed the League of Nations, which I now think is called the UN, to plead his country's case. The Italians in the audience heckled him with vulgar abuse, but he maintained his dignified poise as if completely unaffected. This elevated him while making his opponents look even uglier. Dignity, in fact, is invariably the mask to assume under difficult circumstances. It is as if nothing can affect you and you have all the time in the world to respond. This is an extremely powerful pose. And that's one thing that I gave Vivek credit for is he went and did a lot of public speaking. A lot of shit was live streamed. People tried to get him with a lot of gotcha shit. And he was always poised. He never got mad. Like when the times when he would be attacked, like he would attack the mainstream media and like tell them to fuck off. But with regular people, he just calmly answered their questions, didn't bullshit. Well, at least you could argue that everything he says is bullshit, but like he didn't do any of the politically correct shit. He was pretty candid about his fucking opinions on things. And if he didn't have an answer for shit, he would fucking tell you. And I respected that for of the man. Like when they were like, "What are your plans for the CIA?" and he was like, "Ah, I have no fucking idea yet. Like I got to figure out what I can do with that. That's a different animal." His FBI plan, Chef's Kiss Brilliant, just do completely away with the failed Bureau of Investigations or the Federal Bureau of Intimidation, as you like to, as you would call it. Castro on the Rumble side was something, my dude. A royal demeanor has other uses. Con artists have long known the value of an aristocratic front. What's our man's name? Count Lustig? It either disarms people and makes them less suspicious, or else it intimidates them and puts them on the defensive, as Count Lustig knew. Yeah. Once you put a sucker on the defensive, he is doomed. The con man Yellow Kid Vale, too, would often assume the trappings of a man of wealth, along with the nonchalance that goes with them. Alluding to some magical method of making money, he would stand aloof like a king, exuding confidence as if he really were fabulously rich. The suckers would beg to be in on the con to have a chance at the wealth that he so clearly displayed. Finally, to reinforce the inner psychological tricks involved in projecting a royal demeanor, there are outward strategies to help you create the effect. This is the fake it till you make it part right here. What's that I see on the Rumble side? Adequate alcohol. What's up, Great Liquor? Good to see you, Hobie. uh, First, the Columbus strategy. Always make a bold demand. Set your price high and do not waver. Second, in a dignified way, go after the highest person in the building. This immediately puts you on the same plane as the chief executive you are attacking. It is the David and Goliath strategy. By choosing a great opponent, you create the appearance of greatness, but only if you can convey yourself as equal to that great opponent. This, I think, was kind of the Ron DeSantis failure. He went after Donald Trump, but he wasn't ready for Donald Trump, and he got smashed, fucking destroyed. And it was mostly his own doing. Third, give a gift of some sort to those above you. This is the strategy of those who have a patron. By giving your patron a gift, you are essentially saying that the two of you are equal. It is the old con game of giving so that you can take. When the Renaissance writer Pietro Aretino wanted the Duke of Mantua as his next patron, he knew that if he were slavish and sycophantic, the Duke would think him unworthy. So he approached the Duke with gifts, in this case, paintings by the writer's good friend Titian? Titian? I read that as Titian. Accepting the gifts created a kind of equality between Duke and writer. The Duke was put at ease by the feeling that he was dealing with a man of his own aristocratic stamp. He funded Aretino generously. The gift strategy is subtle and brilliant because you do not beg. You ask for help in a dignified way that implies equality between two people, one of whom just happens to have more money. What up, for no raisin? Yeah, this is a fun book. And I think it's really important, especially coming into like the current instability of like society that we have, that people realize how to play the fucking power games. Because people are going to be playing them in ever growing numbers. People are, I'm seeing it every day. People trying to manipulate shit around them. I like to use the relevant. Yeah, I read it a long, long time ago too. Like I got the general concepts of most of these laws, but it's been ages since I read it, and like probably around the time it was actually on the like top of the New York Times bestseller list. And I was like, ah, now that I'm doing fucking YouTube shit, like this is one that really struck with me, and that's why I started with this one. Like I got a bunch of other books in the library that I want to do discussions about. Like my fucking book club is my thing, because there are great wisdoms in the philosophical writings of the past that we seem to be forgetting today, but it is good to remember them and to share them with people who may not be aware, and to also question what you think you understand about things, which is why I love to do this. Remember, it is up to you to set your own price. Ask for less, and that is just what you will get. Ask for more, however, and you send a signal that you are worth a king's ransom. Even those who turn you down respect you for your confidence. And that respect will eventually pay off in ways you cannot imagine. Image the crown. Place it upon your head, and you assume a different pose. Tranquil, yet radiating assurance. Never show doubt. Never lose your dignity beneath the crown, or it will not fit. It will seem to be destined for one more worthy. Do not wait for a coronation. The greatest emperors crown themselves. So don't wait for someone to give you your power. You take that shit. If it's destined to be yours, you demand it of yourself and you bestow it upon your subjects, not the other way around. Authority. Everyone should be royal after his own fashion. Let all your actions, even though they are not those of a king, be, in their own sphere, worthy of one. Be sublime in your deeds, lofty in your thoughts, and in all your doings, show that you deserve to be a king, even though you are not one in reality. Gracian again. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to be expected, if you're going to expect power and authority, you have to demand power and authority. There's a lot of books I should read on. Yeah, can think of five off the top of your head. Oh man, I could probably do content on the great writings of the past. This isn't even like that old of a writing. What was it, like 98? I think we looked at Cat Ninja looked it up 98 when this was published. Yeah, I think I read it like very early on in its actual existence. Crazy that that's like 20 years ago now, or getting close. I mean, when I read it, like it's got to be 20 years. Reversal. The idea behind the assumption of regal confidence is to set yourself apart from other people. But if you take this too far, it will be your undoing. This is where we get into the realm of arrogance and cruelty. Never make the mistake of thinking that you elevate yourself by humiliating people. Also, it is never a good idea to loom too high above the crowd. You make an easy target, and there are times when an aristocratic pose is eminently dangerous. Yeah, like, you can put yourself too far out in front. Yeah, you don't actually need to address me as your majesty, Squabob. I do not require that of my people. I mean, Cat Ninja. Oh, what about His Highness? No, you don't need to do that either. Ah, did Bumble lag on you? Beat you? I do have some Emperor's clothes Darth may borrow. They're spectacular. Oh, I mean, that's a good example of an emperor who who flew too high above the crowd. He was in his own world, and I don't think he even knew it. But let's get into Charles first. King of England during the 1640s, faced a profound public disenchantment with the institution of monarchy. To quote my man Sander Clegane from Game of Thrones, fuck the king! Revolts erupted throughout the country. Led by Oliver Cromwell, had Charles reacted to the times with insight, supporting reforms and making a show of sacrificing some of his power, history might have been different. Instead, he reverted to an even more regal pose, seeming outraged by the assault on his power and on the divine institution of monarchy, because at the time, monarchs did believe themselves ordained by God Himself. His stiff kingliness offended people and spurred on their revolts, and eventually Charles lost his head, literally. It's the guillotine, folks. Understand, you are radiating confidence, not arrogance or disdain. So you have to put yourself above people without throwing it in their faces that they are beneath you. And elevate yourself without making it obscene. Finally, it is true that you can sometimes find some power through affecting a kind of earthy vulgarity, which will prove amusing by its extremeness. But to the extent that you win this game by going beyond the limits, separating yourself from other people by appearing even more vulgar than they are, the game is dangerous. There will always be people more vulgar than you, and you will easily be replaced the following season by someone younger and worse. So, like the town drunk, I think, is what they're actually talking about here. And I do me a good, I do me a good obscene as well. I can do a good regal, and I can do a good obscene. And the fact that I can do both pretty well is kind of a power unto itself. Why would Queen E name her son after him? Separated by about 300 years, but still, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't give you any insights into the wisdom of Elizabeth II of her name. I guess you got to name him something. Anyway, that was Law 34, y'all. That was a fun one. I, Dithyrus the Magnifico. I like that one. If you guys want to go with that one, I'm his Darfness. I mean, I'll fuck with it. I don't expect y'all. I don't expect y'all to give me lands and titles. I'll take my damn titles myself. Darth Idius. That's my name. Don't wear it out. I mean, the Darth is actually a title unto itself, but I mean, a lot of people don't know the history of the Darth title in the Sith Order. I'm not going to get into explaining that tonight. We're almost at the 2 hour mark. I know if you all start saying "All Hail Darth," I will. I mean, people have said "Hail Darth" before, but I don't think they mean it in like a regal like royal fashion. I think they mean it in like a hailing frequencies open fashion, like communications wise. But yeah, we're almost at 2 hours. That was that was a lot more fun than I thought it was gonna be. I don't know, like something about watching T3 stream gets me gassed up to stream. And I was watching her before we started, but then I had to eat, so I ended up late. Yeah, this was a good chapter. Uh, Friday. I know I'm supposed to stream at noon. I think I'm gonna push that to a little later in the day, probably closer to somewhere between 4 and 6 o'clock. I do intend to do Friday's stream. We'll be getting into mastering the art of timing, so we're gonna move the time for timing's effect. It'll be later in the day. It won't be 8 o'clock late, but it'll be later than the noon one starts. So yeah, join me for mastering the art of timing on Friday. And if nobody has any final additions on the acting of being the king, thanks, Star. Thanks, everyone. What a regal move to just move the time because I see fit to do so. Yeah, like go figure. Darth Hideous would take that play. Like he skipped Monday's show because well, the show doesn't happen without me. So I guess if I'm not going to be there, the show's not going down. Yeah, we're already on Law 35. We should be on Law 36. I know, but I'm not going to lie. There are certain days when like just everything is just like yeah, no, don't fucking do it. You ain't feeling it, and I wasn't having it. So good night, everybody. I will see you back here on fucking Friday. We don't have to do the Vivek stream on Rumble because, well, Vivek dropped out of the race and I no longer feel the need to talk about him. If you don't want to find out about him, he did really good couple of podcasts, one with Roseanne that I was going to reference, and one with Patrick Bet David that he did right about the beginning of his campaign and I was going to just like cross reference a little bit of the differences between the two things and how he developed his popularity. But yeah, that's not going down. So, yep, Friday, Law 35. We will continue the schedule as normal next week. We may be permanently moving the Friday time though, because doing it in the middle of the day is kind of a pain in the fucking ass. I mean noon, like early in the day. So sorry, Go Hagen. I know that fucks with you, but what can I do? I can like I gotta do this shit when it works best for me. All right, guys. I love y'all. Thanks for coming again. And yeah, see you Friday. Oh, hold on. Let me try to find this goodbye button. Hideous.